US is tapping its emergency reserves of oil as pressure mounts on the White House to address rising inflation in the world's largest economy. The unprecedented move is being coordinated with other major crude consumers struggling to cope with higher commodity prices. Washington has called on international oil cartel Opec and its allies to raise production faster to meet growing demand, but those appeals have been ignored. The US says it release 50 million barrels of its strategic petroleum reserves over the next several months. India is joining in, announcing plans to use 5 million barrels from its stockpile. China, Japan, South Korea and the UK are also part of the effort. Ahead of the announcement, OPEC and other oil-producing countries said they would retaliate by restricting their production to keep prices from falling too far. Joining me now is Wald. She's the president of energy consulting firm Transversal Consulting. Thank you for being with us today. We've seen oil prices dipping on the announcement. What kind of an impact will the release of emergency reserves from the US and other major economies have on markets?
The majority of the impact is probably going to be temporary, because if you look at the amount of oil that's being released, it's not a whole lot when you compare it to daily consumption in these countries. We're talking India is releasing about the amount that they consume in one day. The U.S. Is planning to release about the amount that they consume in 2.5 days, though not all of the 50 million barrels will be released at once. Same with the UK. The release is voluntary and would amount to about what they consume in a day. Oil prices, remember, we're already heading down, and we're already seeing gasoline prices in the U.S. back off of earlier highs. So this will definitely make it look like the SPR release is helping to alleviate these high prices. But it is important to keep in mind that these prices were already starting to come down.
Right. And Ellen, ahead of the announcement, OPEC and its allies had said they may consider lowering production if the reserves are released. Do you think they will follow through with the threats, and could a squeeze on supply derail the global economic recovery from the pandemic?
Well, that's definitely a concern, especially because you never know what OPEC will decide, and because they meet monthly and can adjust their supply plans every month. There's always a possibility that they will decide to either increase or decrease production. However, I do see that as fairly unlikely, particularly given comments by the UAE oil minister today, which basically said that they're not jumping at this. They're not going to just have a knee-jerk response. They've carefully planned their planned increases of 400,000 barrels a day over time, and I don't think that they see this as that much more than a blip in the overall production picture. One of the things that they're more concerned about are whether stockpiles are growing or shrinking. They're concerned about demand in China, because China is their biggest customer, and that's really what they're going to be looking at more so than gasoline prices in the United States.
Right, there's more than one factor at play here having an impact on oil prices, not only on the supply side of things, but also on the demand front. We're seeing a resurgence of COVID-19 cases in Europe and other regions. And what impact could this have on oil demand?
Absolutely, and that's a significant issue. And in fact, OPEC did warn about the possibility of this and said that they were keeping a close eye on this. We are seeing lockdowns being implemented in Austria, and then there's a potential for something to happen in Germany as well, and that could definitely impact demand in Europe, which would be a significant have a significant market effect. In fact, right after the Austrian lockdown was announced, that's when we saw oil prices start to really tumble last week.
Wald, thank you very much for being with us today.